This is Certified Financial Planner Jim Tewalt. A week ago on Monday evening, we attempted to record or present the new digital dollar. We had a lot of technical difficulties that evening, so I am re-recording the presentation now so that we can make it available to those of you who signed up for the meeting and just those of you who might be interested in seeing this information. So what is the new digital dollar? Well, we're going to talk about that subject a bit tonight. So let's get started. First of all, I have to make a couple of disclosures. EPS RIA, which does business under the name of EPS Wealth Management, is a registered investment advisor. And the information presented in this evening is for educational purposes only, does not intend to make an offer or a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities or investment strategies or investments of any other kind. So investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, they're not guaranteed, so be sure to consult with a qualified financial advisor and or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed. Also, although we're not going to talk about digital assets per se, there is a disclosure here that you can read and come back to if you wish. So let's get into our presentation. We're going to talk about the new digital dollar. First of all, I want to talk about central bank digital currencies, CBDC. It's a term that you might see in the media these days. It's digital currencies produced and promoted by central banks. Now, the whole idea is to move us towards a cashless society, and there's a number of reasons why that's happening. First of all, it's being promoted as a more efficient means of transacting business, but there are some negative aspects that might go along with the positive aspects of conducting business on a more efficient basis. So let's talk about that. First of all, what do the words mean? Well, central bank. A central bank is a bank that controls currency for a nation or nation group. The powers of a central bank might include printing money, raising or lowering interest rates, reducing or increasing the monetary supply, all in with an effort to exert some controls over the economy. Examples of central banks would include the Riksbank in Sweden, or Bank of England, or the Federal Reserve in the US. So central bank goals could include the elimination of cash or creating digital currencies. Central bank goals today could include printing money, raising or lowering interest rates, reducing the monetary supply. So when we talk about digital currencies, I think what the term that comes to mind is Bitcoin. So is a central bank digital currency, is that like Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is a digital currency that was created to be decentralized, permissionless, and have a finite number of coins. In other words, decentralized meaning that there was no one bank or financial institution that controlled or regulated or even monitored the buying or selling using Bitcoin as a digital currency. It was permissionless, which means that anybody could transact using Bitcoin without permission from any central organization. And it had a finite number of coins meaning that each coin would have a value, and that value would be defined by the number of persons using Bitcoin, but it would be a finite number of coins. In a central bank CBDC, or centralized controlled currency, a centralized bank digital currency, the central bank actually controls the transactions, and the number of coins could be infinite. It's like printing of the US dollars now. So if digital currency is not backed by any thing like gold or silver, as the US dollar has been backed by in the past, and if there's an infinite number of coins, there is really no way of determining what the value of any number, any particular coin or any dollar would be. So let's talk about what these words mean. First of all, Bitcoin is a digital currency that was established to be decentralized, permissionless, and have a finite number of coins. Decentralized, meaning that there was no one financial institution that transactions went through. If you were to buy something using Bitcoin, the transaction was directly between the purchaser and the seller, and there was no bank or other institution that was monitoring that transaction. There's a record of all transactions on Bitcoin, but nobody monitors them. Permissionless, meaning that nobody has to give you permission to make the transaction. For example, if you write a check on a bank account that you have, or if you make a transaction using a wire, bank wire, or some other type of transaction, as an example, using your debit card or your credit card, there is a centralized organization, your bank, that gives you permission to make that transaction. And with Bitcoin, there was a finite number of coins, meaning that with a finite number of coins, the value of those coins could go up depending on the number of people using them. If you have an infinite number of coins, well, we'll talk about that in a moment here. So in a central bank CBDC, centralized bank digitalized currency, first of all, there is a bank that's controlling those transactions, can exercise control over those transactions, and there's an infinite number of coins, meaning it's very difficult to ascribe a finite value to any one of those coins. Infinite number of coins, meaning anybody can create. Hello, this is Jim Tewalt. I'm a certified financial planner, and a week ago we set up a live Zoom meeting to discuss the new digital dollar. We had a very uncooperative internet connection, so I'm going to redo that presentation this evening. So let's take a look at, first of all, the disclosures that those who regulate us require. So the first one is a disclosure about EPS RIA, or EPS Wealth Management is the name that we work under. Please take a look at that disclosure. I'll leave it up there for a moment. And then also we have a disclosure about digital assets. We're going to talk a little bit about digital currencies tonight. So we have a disclosure that we would like you to read about digital currencies and the risks involved in digital currencies. And recently we've had a pretty nasty event in the digital currency market with the closure of the bankruptcy of a major firm. So a lot of risk involved in this area. So please take a moment to read this disclosure. Thank you. All right, so let's move on and let's talk about the new digital dollar. The new digital dollar is something that's an event that many believe will be with us soon. Digital dollars that we're talking about tonight are digital currencies that would be issued by central banks. Now, central banks are looking at digital currencies as a way to move us into the new norm, cashless society. I know for my kids today, if I want to get money from them or give money to them, they like that part better. They want to use digital means such as Venmo and other apps for moving cash between us. So some say that the new digital dollar is going to be done to eliminate the greenback, the dollar that we've come to know and love and spend and save, in an effort to bring us into the new cashless society. So let's define some terms here. First of all, let's talk about central bank. What is a central bank? Well, some gurus say that central banks will eliminate cash and introduce digital currencies, but what are they really? So a central bank basically is a bank that controls currency for a nation or a nation group. For example, some central banks are the Riksbank in Sweden, the Bank of England, or the Federal Reserve here in the US. So what are some of the powers that central banks have? Well, they can create or print money, they can raise or lower interest rates, or they can reduce or expand the monetary supply. So central bank goals today could be the elimination of cash or the creation of digital currencies, again, to move us into a cashless society. So when you think about digital currencies, a term that comes to mind is Bitcoin. So do we mean that central bank digital currencies would be like Bitcoin? Well, actually not. Bitcoin is a digital currency, but it was created to be a decentralized means of exchanging money between buyers and sellers. It's permissionless, and there were a finite number of coins created. So decentralized meaning that, again, transactions between buyer and seller were direct. They don't require any permission from any central regulatory financial institution or authority, and the number of coins is finite, which means that the more people participate in Bitcoin, the greater the value of each Bitcoin would be. So when Bitcoin first started, the coins were around 6 cents each, and now they've gone up to where they're worth thousands of dollars each. But a central bank CBDC, or centralized bank digital currency, is different. First of all, a central bank is a financial institution that can control the transactions, and the number of coins would be infinite, not finite. So it would be hard to determine what value each coin would have. Central bank powers could be to create and monitor the digital currency, probably would want to eliminate cash or eliminate the greenbacks. We might see them called in and just burned. They could have the power to freeze assets, seize assets, withhold taxes, or even control our spending. So the difference between the central bank and Bitcoin is that with Bitcoin, again, transactions are private. They require no permission, and there's a finite number of coins. And that's directly the opposite of what we would see with the central banks. So, so some say that the government could use digital currencies in ways that could curtail or even eliminate our freedoms. But for me, I'm a pragmatist. I'm not an alarmist. So I'm not going to try to alarm you. I'm not going to try to scare you into making decisions that might not be good for you. But digital currencies obviously could be used and are used by some governments to track spending or track our location. If we're spending a digital currency while on vacation in some other state, obviously the central bank would know where we are by our spending habits. They could be used, some say, to enforce compliance. They could access, the access to our money could be turned off. The central banks could confiscate and eliminate paper dollars and coinage. They could collect taxes right at the point of a transaction, as is done right now with sales taxes. They could control our freedoms, some say. So is that going to happen? I don't know. Again, I'm a pragmatist. I'm not alarmist. I can't predict the future. So I'm just saying that these are things that you probably will read or hear about in the financial media. So supposedly the new digital dollar is being field tested right now. So how will it be implemented? It may be here, or when will it be here? I think the new digital dollar, if it does come out, will be promoted as a more efficient, less expensive way to do transactions. Again, that's happening already with payment methods like PayPal and Venmo and others. They could exchange digital dollars for your current dollars in your account. Who knows? Some say that that this could happen as early as mid-2023. Is it going to happen? Yeah, honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that some things might become more valuable as a result of the new digital currency coming on the scene. Obviously, physical gold and silver has always been valuable, and especially becomes value in times when the economy is threatened, or when economic times, when there's a lot of uncertainty in economic times. Goldbacks and silverbacks, which you may not have heard of, but they're thin, ultra thin sheets of gold or silver encased in plastic. And some of them look like money. They're made to look like money, but they're actually gold or silver. I think the initial goldbacks came out in the state of Utah. Farmland especially could become more valuable. Obviously, with COVID, we've experienced food shortages. So farmland is becoming more and more valuable. In fact, one of the things that's happening in farmland today, excuse me, is that people that have held farmland for many, many generations have had their wealth, the value of the farmland tied up, but they have been able to actually farm the land and generate income that way. But what's happening today is that farmland is being purchased by investment trust and then leased back to the farmers. So the farmers can actually generate wealth or get at the wealth that they have tied up in their farmland, but also not give up their means of making a living by doing so. Stocks in favor of industries, for example, those that focus on clean water or food or communication or energy, could become a lot more valuable. Gemstones could become valuable. Food stocks, potable water, seeds could become a lot more valuable. Alternative currencies could become more valuable, although if more central banks around the world go to digital currencies, that will eliminate that possibility. And if we have a digital currency that is recognized around the world, then that the idea of going to alternative currencies might not be as attractive. And firearms or ammunition or other goods that are attractive to people could become more valuable as well. So what is our plan in all of this? Well, first of all, we're going to be prepared. We're going to focus on preparation, but we're not going to panic. You remember Y2K? Well, Y2K in the year 2000 was a phenomenon that came along that basically said that our calendars were going to cease operation. All of our computer programs would become inoperative. There would be mass chaos and a lot of other things that basically did not happen. I remember when the year 2000, or when the calendar turned to 2000, 12:01 a.m. in the year 2000, all my computers continued to work. My calendars continued to work. It was not the end of the world. I could even go to my toaster and make toast. I could go to my computerized coffee making machine and make coffee. So we're also going to suggest that people own gold and silver, because gold and silver have had intrinsic value going back to probably the beginning of the known world. We're also going to continue to own stocks in solid companies, and we're going to focus or stick with our income-based investing strategies. Basically, we're going to buy investments that reward the purchasers with streams of income, whether that comes from dividends or from just distributions of earnings. We are also going to look at the CPI report. Now, last Monday night, the CPI report was due to come out the next day on Tuesday, and it did. It showed that inflation had actually slowed down from the 0.4% per month in October to about 0.1%. The Fed did increase interest rates, though, by 0.5% up to 4.5%. So at this point, the market expects inflation to slow down and perhaps an easing of interest rates. These are things that are positive to the market. The market does not like inflation. The market does not like increasing interest rates, but we probably are not going to see an easing or decline of interest rates until the year 2024. I think the Fed at this point is going to be active. They're going to try to slow down inflation. The Fed's current inflation figures for this year about 7.1%. But we have to remember that the Fed does not include the price of food or gas in its inflationary figures. And food and gas have increased at rates far in excess of 7.1%. But as I tell our clients, you can exercise a lot of control over inflation. For example, my favorite peanut butter, the price of my favorite peanut butter went up from about $1.29 a jar a couple of years ago to now over $3.50 a jar. But I can go and I can purchase the lower dollar, not organic peanut butter, and I can still pay about $1.29 a jar for that. So we have a lot of, we can exercise a great deal of control over inflation by not driving as much, by changing our food purchasing habits. So, and just a lot of other things that we can do. So we can, again, we can exercise some control over inflation. So last week, we were anticipating what the Fed would do on Tuesday. And of course, this is what actually did happen. So I also promised to talk about 3 retirement myths. And so let's get into those. Retirement myth number 1, when I retire, and I can look forward to doing nothing and I will be happy. Well, the honest to God truth is that for those who retire and do nothing, they begin to decline physically and mentally, and they're not happy we actually had a client that retired a couple of years ago. She sat home on the couch, did nothing, and she declined very rapidly. In fact, her daughter actually came in and started working with us to handle her financial matters. Well, she wound up moving back east to where the area of the country where she grew up. She got a lot more involved with her relatives and friends back there, and she's doing extremely well today. Retirement myth number 2, if I have $1 million or you pick the amount, my retirement is secure. Well, there's a lot of reasons why that statement is false, and we can discuss those if you ever do come in and have an interview or a consultation with us. Ask me that question and I'll tell you why that statement is false, and I'll show you why that statement is false. But basically what we find is that income is the more accurate focus of a happy retirement or a secure retirement. The third myth is that it's too late for me to plan. Well, you know, it certainly is better to plan earlier rather than later, but it is never too late. They say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. And that's the same for retirement planning. If you started planning 20 years ago, that would be better, but the second best time to begin to plan is today. So I also promised that we would talk about 4 media myths. So let's talk about those. Let's debunk a couple of those myths. First of all, the first myth is this, and I'm going to credit this to author George Orwell, who he was actually right when he wrote about doublespeak. Doublespeak meaning that the names of laws or programs accurately describe them. Actually, for most of the new laws or rules or programs, if you read the name of that program or that law, it's probably the opposite of what the name says. It would be a lot more accurate description of them. Second myth is this time it's different. The myth that ideas that have really never worked before will somehow work now. Well, I have a favorite saying, and that saying is the one thing that we learn from history is that we never seem to learn from history. Honestly, if it's never worked before, it probably is not going to work now either. The third myth is that the news is accurate and objective, and I'm talking about financial news and other news that we get in the media. The media makes money by selling news, and actually positive news never sells. The saying used to be, dog bites man, that news never sells. But if a man bites a dog, that news could sell. So negative and exaggerated news sells. Remember when the Twin Towers went down back in 2011? We saw the Twin Towers go down several times a day for many, many days. And we were glued to the screens, even though we knew that when the plane flew into the building was going to go down. We watched it happen over and over and over again. And that kind of news is what sells media. The next myth, or fourth myth, that I'd like to debunk here is that change is necessary. The old ways no longer work. Well, that is baloney, and more baloney. Yes, there are some things that where change is necessary. It happens in diapers. But also there's a truth that steady plodding leads to prosperity and hasty speculation leads to poverty. So change is not necessarily necessary, and old ways can work. So let's move on. And by the way, the media again, tells us that change is necessary, that old ways no longer work. But the media makes money by keeping our attention there. They don't make money by telling us that something that is tried and true is going to continue to work for you. They have to have our attention if they're going to make money. So in light of all the negative news today, what can we do? Do we throw up our hands? Do we quit? What now? What now is a question that I hear a lot. So here's a list of do's and don'ts in reverse order. So we're going to give you the don'ts first, and then we're going to give you the do's. First of all, don't panic. Don't fall prey to media hucksters or speculators. It's just a sure way to be parted from your money. And don't listen to bad advice. If it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. There's a verse in the book of Psalms in the Bible that says, that warns us not to take advice from the ungodly. Careful, careful, careful. Here's a list of do's. Do think. Do get relevant, trustworthy information and advice. Do make and implement a plan that fits your circumstances. And when you get advice, then make that advice relevant to what your plan is, to what your circumstances are. There's a lot of gurus out there that will tell you everybody should do this, everybody should do that. But advice is like clothing. There are some there's some clothes that look good on you and some that don't. There's some clothes that fit you and some obviously that just do not. So it's really good to make and implement a plan and then get information and advice that fits your plan and your circumstances. And then do build a base of rock solid investments, quality, value, predictable investments. Companies that have been around for a long time, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years or more. We've recently experienced a major company going down in the area of cryptocurrencies, going bankrupt, and just hurting thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. So be careful. Build a base of rock solid investments. And then if you want to do some speculation with some of your money, go ahead and do that. But your serious money should be in rock solid places. And then don't go it alone. Some of you are maybe do-it-yourselfers and very capable, but if you're not in that category, don't do it. Don't go it alone. Seek help, and seek help from fiduciaries. So what's a fiduciary? Well, a fiduciary is someone that's taken an oath to put your needs above their own in every financial transaction or every transaction. So seek help from a person who is a licensed fiduciary or has taken a fiduciary oath. Certified financial planners are people that have attended and passed the College of Financial Planning and taken a fiduciary oath. In other words, we have taken an oath, if we want to keep our designation, to act as fiduciaries in all transactions with clients. And then make decisions in the context of your plan. So we want to encourage you to stay connected. We plan to do more monthly live webinars, so stay tuned for news about those. We already are doing weekly email blasts. Get on the list, and don't be afraid to invite your family and friends to participate. You can always get off the list if you think that our advice is not good advice for you. So remember that hasty speculation leads to poverty, but steady plotting leads to prosperity, leads to success. So get godly advice, have no anxiety about anything, and take advantage of our no cost, no obligation consultations where we can give you advice or give you information that is more tailored to your situation. We invite you to join the EPAS family today. Why? Because our mission is to help our clients make informed decisions in the context of their personal plans and provide relevant information to them. So we offer a no obligation, no cost initial consultation where we will answer your questions, discuss your concerns, and give you advice that's more tailored to your financial situation. So to get that no cost, no obligation initial consultation, call 623-537-3657 and talk to Mary or John. That's 623-537-3657. Talk to Mary or John. Again, you can Google us, you can call us. We offer a macro look and a micro look when we give financial advice. The macro look is, are you doing everything that you should be doing? The micro look is based on, are the things that you're doing really relevant for you? Again, one size advice does not necessarily fit everybody. As our friend Dr. Ed says, we want to be the guide by your side, not just the sage on the stage. So we don't want to talk at you, we want to talk with you. So thank you for your time and attention. Stay tuned for more information about upcoming webinars and check out our website. You can catch us at EPS Wealth Management or iloveeps.com. Thanks again for watching and listening, and stay tuned.